What's up, Wolfpack Nation? We have a very special Friday episode for you. We'll be joined by Mr. Isaac and Miss Latrese Sowells, the parents of our incoming freshman center, Spike Sowells. It was an excellent interview, a great conversation. We think y'all will enjoy it a lot. Our Friday show is presented by FanDuel. From big upsets to game-winning drives, the NFL playoffs are now here and made better than ever with FanDuel. New customers can sign up today, bet just $5, and get $200 back in bonus bets guaranteed. Yes, that's right. Win or lose. Head on over to FanDuel.com in order to get started. As always, it's time to get locked in with Locked On. Enjoy our special Friday episode.
You are Locked On Wolfpack, your daily podcast on the NC State Wolfpack, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, we are joined by very special guests, the parents of Spike Sowells, Mr. Isaac and Miss Latrese Sowells. Now, they have told us they have a lot to say about Spike, his recruitment process, his journey to now join us here in Raleigh with the Wolfpack. But first and foremost, thank y'all so much for coming on and welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us.
Same. All right, now listen. We're gonna need y'all to loosen up just a little bit now. We're gonna be on this thing because
don't say loose.
Oh, hey, listen. We gonna get into this thing because I'm gonna tell you something. Your son has become a fan favorite right away, and you know everything that we have seen from him. We have seen the big personality. I'm sure y'all have heard about his TikTok that's going viral and whatnot with the guest All-American Offensive Lineman and all that. So we need to see that personality out of y'all. Now we need to see that viralness out of y'all right now. Okay.
Now, Kit, he also, I don't know if you've been on his Instagram, Isaac Spike 66. He actually, when they was going through walkthroughs, he actually talks about in and out. So you need to go on there and check out when he was convincing a few of his teammates at the time logistically about taking an Uber and spending it up 6 ways, and it'll be approximately $8.60 per person to Uber to get in and out.
Which how he thought 6 linemen was going to fit in any size Uber is beyond me. But
I was just about to say, even the Uber XL, even the Uber XL ain't gonna do the job.
No, it was not. But he was trying to get the in and out. So
I understand. We got to go check that out.
But we'll dive into Spike's recruitment process here. Obviously, this is a family that hails from Louisville, Kentucky, and we talk a lot about on this program how important it is for NC State to go pick up prime prospects out of the state of North Carolina. Of course, we want to build a wall and protect the best prospects in state, but when you can go across state lines and take a prospect out of Kentucky or South Carolina, it makes things just that much sweeter. How does a guy like Spike end up with the Wolfpack?
Well, it's actually a very funny story. Spike was discovered by one of the GAs. She attended his rival high school, which is another funny aspect to it. But she had heard a lot of buzz about this kid over at Male, and that's the big thing, right? Male versus Manual can't cheer for anybody at Male, but you got to hear about this kid from Male. And so she checked out his film and she was like, I got to show Coach 2J this. And she said she was a little bit apprehensive, but she said, she knocked on the door and said, Coach, I may be out of line here, but I really think you should check out this kid's film. And she said, Coach 2J took one look at it and said, oh no, I've got to have him. And so, obviously the rest is history, but the fact that it was a female GA, by the way, who went to his rival high school, who looked up and found him.
I think she was more of a recruiting, like in the recruiting.
Yeah.
So GA, is a graduate assistant. I think she was more in line with recruiting. But actually, 2J was into it, but Joker Phillips, at one point was the head coach at Kentucky. I believe it's from Glasgow, Danville, one of those towns in Kentucky. He's familiar with the state. So, if he sees a player too that that may be interested in, being a pretty good football player, interested in NC State. That's when I think he's the one that initiated the offer. And then Coach 2J was, once he offered, he went into the.
Okay, now I gotta ask this, okay, because we all know they say when you win on the couch, they never say you got to win over dad. They never say that. They say it's about winning mom. So Miss Latrese, I'm gonna throw this one specifically to you? What was it about NC State that won you over to where you could say, because we've seen it, right? We saw Landon Collins' mom on Sunday. They said, my boy ain't going over there. He ain't doing that. So what was it to you that you said, my son is going to be good in their hands? I trust him here for the next 4 years.
Honestly, it was so we went on quite a few recruiting visits. And I'd like to call myself like an undercover sleuth detective, right? Like, you get people talking and you get them completely off subject and you read their personality. And so along the way, there was a lot of people whose personality I read, especially when official visits came and you got to have a couple of drinks in free time and people don't realize what they're saying. And it crossed a lot of people off the list. 2J kind of reeled me in when he came. He just came into town on a visit and we got a chance to go up to the school and see him. And he said, nobody's going to outwork me for your son. And so that was always in the back of my mind, like, okay, like, like that's just, blah, blah, blah. But as the time went on, I noticed that there was never a moment where he gave up. Right. There was never a moment where he backed off. He always gave Spike his space to make his decision, but he held true to his word. And so as you go through the process, you start to weed out the BS, right? Like you start to see who's just, repeating the same spiel that they repeat to every parent and making all the loose promises, and you start weeding through that. And so, I feel like 2J putting that initial seed in my head allowed me to open up to say, okay, let me look a little bit deeper and see if you say the same things from day 1 to day 365, right? Like, are you going to be the same person? And even down to this day, like I just talked to him yesterday, like he has been above and beyond. I used to tell Spike all the time, they're going to sell you on flowers and rainbows, but then you sign on the dotted line, they're going to, it's on to the next. And I honestly can say I am wrong. I can eat crow on that because 2J has been still top notch to him. He still texts us, how y'all doing? Do y'all have any questions? Do you need anything? So like as a parent, that's going to be huge. That's huge in the recruiting process.
Especially to Spike being far away from home. 8 hours of Raleigh, North Carolina. That's not around the corner. Yeah. With me, it just, I know, like you said, directed towards her. I'll just say this real quick about Coach 2J and what's really sold me on him just being around football. Coach 2J, when we were all up there, we were in his office and he had a presentation and he talked about some of the things that Spike done extremely well and also some things that Spike can get better at. One thing I've always told Spike, because I have been coaching him, through the years, and I had just taught his junior, senior year at my high school, being his offensive line coach. You can always get something. You can always be great. You can be a good football player, but just there's always something you can work on. And I appreciate Coach 2J, not only recognize his strengths, but also his weaknesses.
One of my favorite things about Coach 2J, and I've never met him in person, but something I could tell, whether it's social media or in interviews or even on TV, his infectious personality, the energy that he pours into not just his players, but the staff members. I can only imagine his own family, the energy you feel from him. What's the best way to categorize your relationship with Coach 2J based on the energy and the excitement that he pours into others?
Trusting, extremely trusting. And that's huge when you're sending your kid off. It's one thing when you're sending your kid off to college in general, like, he could have been from our house to UK's campus is like 52 minutes. If you don't speed, which I speed, but it's easy to say.
I won't tell nobody.
Right. So
I was about to say, hold on, Big Pops is a cop. You can't be saying stuff like that. We drive the speed limit. We follow the laws in this house.
So it's easy to say, like, send them close by so that if anything happens, you can reach out and grab them, or I can go, make him some soup or put something on it, check his forehead and give him medicine. So to be able to be okay with his decision, I really had to trust whose hands he was going to. Coach 2J's wife is amazing. You know what I mean? Like Miss Cammy is amazing. Yeah. So seeing her relationship, one of the huge things for me that I picked up early on was you have some coaches who make it a point to have the players over to their homes very frequently. And then you have some who are like, oh, we do team outings. I wanted more of we have players to my home, right? Because to me, that says you are a part of our family, like not just football, you are a part of our family. To have somebody in your home, that is a huge deal. And I wanted him to be a part of something like that. So when I found out that, him and Cammie have the players over like every Thursday, every other Thursday, and they have to literally put them out. Oh, okay, I'm good. Like, I know that my son's going to be in good hands.
Home away from home.
Home away from home.
Right.
Absolutely. Well, we have got to get into something that you said earlier, Isaac, and that you were his offensive line coaches last season, because enough people don't know this, but Spike got NFL blood running through him now, particularly, I'm sorry you had to get drafted by the Cleveland Browns. I wish my Lions would have made the right decision earlier, but we've got to get into that after a quick break. Is that all right with y'all?
Oh, excellent. Yes, sir.
Our first Friday sponsor is Prizepicks, the place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions in winnings, Prizepicks has changed the game in daily fantasy sports. Whether it's the playoffs or regular season, Prizepicks has made it easier than ever before to win big while enjoying all the football action. Now it's playoff time, and there's no better way to get in on the action with Prizepicks. Here's how it works for you. All you have to do is simply pick more or less on at least 2 players, and if your picks hit, you could win up to 1,000 times your cash. I did not stutter. 1,000 times your cash, real money, just by making a few simple picks. For me, I'm all about hot takes this season. This week on Prizepicks, I'm looking at Lamar Jackson going for over 250 passing yards, and we'll go with Travis Kelce over 70 receiving yards. It's fun to predict and easy to play. Plus, with Prizepicks Flex Play, you can still double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. And with the app, you get your winnings fast, sometimes in as little as just 15 minutes. Get ready to run your game this football season on Prizepicks. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's right. You get $50 just for signing up and depositing $5. Don't wait any longer. Take your game to the next level with Prizepicks. Prizepicks, run your game. All right, continuing our conversation here with the Sowells family. Kenton, you wanted to ask Mr. Isaac about his NFL bloodlines here. What do you got to say about that?
Well, I want to say this first of all, right? Because me personally, my old defensive coordinator, Coach Jermaine Crowell, I love you to death. I know you're out there watching. When I was graduating, he said, Gibbs, when am I going to get another U? And even at that young age, I knew I'm not going to force my son to play football. You know what I mean? If I have kids one day, if the Lord blesses me with that, they're going to choose whatever path in life they want. At what age did you look at Spike and it was clear, like, oh, he's a chip off the old block. He's going to be out there busting some heads just like I was?
But you know what? Well, actually, Spike was born into year 2. Year 2. Going to because it was 2007, I was drafted in 2006. Man, when he first started walking, my mom, who was up there, who helped us out at the time, when Spike was real little, my mom actually has video when he was able to walk like a year or two, when I was in training camp, trying to put on my cleats and put on my helmet, and then a video of him actually hitting the sled. At 1 year old. But I would just say, apart from that, I actually coached him in Little League. I kind of knew Spike was dialed in when he was like 6 years old. Well, here we have what you call Mighty Mites, which when I was playing, when you first started football, it was Pee Wee. So they added the Mighty Mite. And, when you get little 5 or 6 year old kids and things like that, they like to fight and play in the dirt and not really paying attention. I say it to his true. Spike has always been dialed in. He's like, Daddy, when I was like, Daddy, can I play? Or when am I gonna get in? He's always been tuned in. But I will probably say the more like the dominant force when he was like a sophomore in high school. Okay. That's when I would say, like, watching the film and things like that, I'm like, oh wow. Pancaking kids, but he's always kind of had that football mentality. Just in high school, he was physically more mature, being aggressive, and things like that. So
I'm gonna tell you something. It's beautiful to hear that his first step was a kick step type of story, because I always thought that I was a weirdo and I was by myself, because my mom always tells the story of, when Ken was 3-4, he'd turn on ESPN Classics and try to learn the game through that. And so, nowadays there's so many guys that you hear like, oh, even if their pops play in the league or something like that, oh, he wasn't really interested till 6th or 7th grade, or we kind of had to push him into it. So it's very interesting and beautiful to hear that type of deal going on there.
Honestly, he wasn't going to coach Spike. He was against it. And Spike started football, and one day at practice, he drags Isaac over to the coach and goes, "This is my dad." And he played football, and "Daddy, will you be my coach?" And so he dragged Isaac in the coach. Isaac wasn't going to coach.
Right. I was in the Latrese sipping on my lemonade. Just in there watching. Yeah, true story.
I've never heard of a kid asking, "Hey, Dad, you got to get more involved. You got to get more involved than what you are." Normally is, "Please stop embarrassing me, Mom. Stop embarrassing me, Dad."
And so even then, like back then when Isaac started coaching, he would ask Isaac, could they watch film? So at 6 years old, he was asking to rewatch the games so that him and Isaac could talk about what he did, what he didn't do, and how he could get better. And his football, and you could probably talk to some of the coaches. He has a existential football IQ. Like it is almost, it's mind-boggling.
Right.
The things that he processes it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, he's a very smart kid. I really started teaching Spike about, him playing on the offensive line because, when you got the X on your helmet. So he played offensive line and defensive line. And, I had a big, dry erase board. And then, I just started teaching him, the alignments of a defense, over front, under front, a 30 front, 50 front, and things like that. And, also too, when I was, coaching high school, not just Spike, just all actually middle school, to be honest with you, the alignment. So like, for example, King, this, the head up over the center is a 0.
Right.
Head up on the guard is a 2 technique, tackles a 4 technique, tight ends a 6 technique. And then, a shade offset of the center is a shade, either way, 1 or shade. Then you talk about the 2-eye inside shoulder guards to 2-eye, outside shoulder guards to 3 technique, tackles of inside shoulders to 4-eye, head up, like I said, is a 4, outside the tackles a 6. Now, when I grew up, we used to over the tight end, it used to be 7, 6, 9. But the kids was like, "Man, this is too hard to understand." So then I changed it up to keep it within the line. So head up over tight ends a 6, inside shade is a 6-eye, outside shade of the tight ends a 7.
I got you. So speaking, you got real inside baseball right there, and I love that. I love that we could have that type of talk here. So let's keep it on inside baseball for a second. Was there a particular scheme that you wanted him to play in? Was there a particular thing that you were like, I got to stay away from a running shooter. I want him to be in a power scheme. Was there any particular scheme where you were like, scheme don't matter, comfortability with the university? How'd you kind of weigh those things out for Spike?
You know what? I would credit his high school football coach, Chris Wolf at Mel High School. He's more of a balance, but he loves big plays. But we had all of those. We had inside zone. We had stretch. We had the gap scheme. We had the duo scheme, which is duo, Grace. I don't know if you know too much about it, but I'm sure Kenton does. Not the question your IQ or nothing, Grace. But duo is pretty much the gap scheme, but you don't have pullers.
Without a puller, yeah.
Yeah, so so we had we call it the gap duo, so we had power, we had counter, we had the old Redskin, the GT, where you had to pull in the guard and the tackle. So, we had all of that. So, so Spike, that's why I said Spike knows all of that. And, he was able to reap the benefits because we was able to do a lot of that stuff at home. So there was never a scheme where I was like, oh, we don't want to do this. So, it was a very open offense, and Spike gravitated towards it. Kid can do it all. Oh, and also the pin and pull. Yeah, we had that too, where they come down and then, we actually had one. We did it more, Spike more his sophomore year because it was the person I wasn't coaching, where Spike pulled from the center position.
I was just about to say, if you could do, let me tell you something now. Pin and pull from the center position, you a bad boy, you know it. You a bad boy, you know it if you can get to that outside from the center position.
So he played center as a sophomore. We moved him out to tackle to help out with the stretch game because Spike was able to seal so well. So, he's back at center now, with NC State. He enjoys center more because he feels like he's in more command, pointing out the defense and all that other, all that other stuff. So, yeah.
As a former offensive lineman yourself, what are some of the characteristics you see in Spike that will help him excel now at the next level?
Spike is aggressive. There is no doubt about it. Spike had over 200 pancake blocks in 3 years.
We like those in Raleigh.
Yeah. So, I mean, he was very aggressive, 212 to be exact. So he done that in 3 years. So he didn't play varsity as a freshman. I think he got in some a little bit, but, he really took off like his sophomore year. But Spike he's really, really aggressive. That's one thing, sometimes when kids are big, that's one of the things you always have to teach kids, especially when you're aggressive, to be aggressive. There's a cool clinic. I haven't been in years, but one year I went in Cincinnati, and Coach McNally, a longtime NFL head coach, coached the Giants, Cincinnati Bengals, even back with Anthony Munoz. And he said something that was very dear to me that I keep in my mind and I coach to this day. He said, the younger you teach linemen to be aggressive, the better off they'll be. So when I ended up being his youth league coach, some parents didn't like it because they thought I was too mean. But to me, football is an aggressive and competitive sport. Yeah. So, it holds true, me teaching kids to be aggressive. And now you see how he is now, in my opinion, is one of the best linemen in the country.
Hey, we absolutely love it. And we're going to get into the best lineman, one of the best linemen in the country statement after this next break, because we are hearing absolutely excellent things from the All-American game that he's currently at. We will be right back, folks. Stay here, locked on. We got the Sowells family on Locked On Wolfpack.
Our second Friday sponsor is FanDuel. From big upsets to game-winning drives, the NFL playoffs are now here and made better than ever with FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get up to $200 back in bonus bets guaranteed. Yes, that's right. $200 back in bonus bets, win or lose. The FanDuel app gives you everything you need to place live bets, same-game parlays, and so much more. Head on over to FanDuel.com in order to join today, and you'll get started with $200 back in bonus bets. That's only on FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Last couple minutes here, very special guest joining us on our Friday show, the Sowells family. Wanted to talk about the Navy All-American Bowl that Spike took part in over this past weekend. Last week, although we're caught up in our failing basketball team right now, I kept seeing Spike on these lists put out by On3 of top performers of the week. And keep in mind, the Navy All-American Bowl is the top 100 high school players in the country, not just in one state, not just one region, the entire USA. Spike, every single day of their workouts during this week, is in the top 5. He's in the top 3. And then they compile the entire list of the whole week. Number 3 overall. Top 100 players in the country. Spike is number 3. Miss Latrese, I'll ask you first. What was it like seeing Spike on a stage like that one?
Okay, moment of transparency. He did not tell us in advance that he had been voted team captain by the team. So, of course, I found out at the game as they're lining up and he's walking out, and I just busted out crying. Because obviously every parent wants a lot for their kid, right? Like, you want to see them succeed. You want to see them achieve their dreams. But knowing the doubt that Spike has had to go up against some analysts, and he's 2 inches too short, or he had a coach literally tell him to his face, when you hit your growth spurt, we'll offer you. And so to watch how he never let that deter him, and he was determined that he was going to get in that game, and then he was determined that he was going to make a mark. And so to see the culmination of that, of him not only being in that game, but to see that, like you said, 49 other players on that team said, this guy can represent us at the middle of the field. Like, that just took all my toughness away. I turned into a ball of mush up in the stands. I was boohoo crying. So,
I gotta call my landlord. Apparently the ceiling got a leak or something. They get a little messy in here. But to that extent, right? In terms of what he accomplished at the Navy All-American Bowl, I'm gonna turn this one to you, Isaac. Was this at all surprising to you to say, like, he's not just having a decent game or holding his own amongst the best players? He is dominating. some of the biggest names in high school football, some of the guys that are pushing these rivals and on 3 and 24/7 recruiting and all that, some of the guys that are driving their classes to be top class, he's dominating those guys. Was there a moment for you where you're like, I'm a little taken aback by this, or were you like, hey, this is old hat. This is what we expected when we came.
I tell you, it's what I expected because Spike has been so, like I said, has been so physically dominant. I'll say I'll go back to like when I first started taking him to camps going to his sophomore, junior year. We went to some small camps because I didn't want to take him to so many camps where, to me, don't take him to the camps unless he plays on Friday nights. Right. So he started as a sophomore. So we went to small camps. And then he kept getting all these, O-line MVPs. And then I was like, okay, you know what? This kid's ready for the big time. So we actually took him to I took him to the underclassmen camp, which is in tune with Under Armour ESPN down in Atlanta, Georgia. I actually had to pay for that one, just to help him get exposure. And then, Craig Herbert, who's head of ESPN, was down there. And then he was the MVP of that. So then it was like, okay, he says, in 2 weeks, the actual Under Armour camp, come back down in 2 weeks. Spike has a spot. So we was like, okay. Then we got in there 2 weeks later. Then he wins O-line MVP again. Now that one's where David Sanders, who's the number one player in North Carolina, is going down to Tennessee. I have my opinion on that one, but that's another.
We do too.
Yeah, but I was about to say, but like I said, then he wins MVP of that, and I'm just like, oh wow. I'm like, dude, this was some big time kids down there. Like I said, we talked, like my wife talked about, him kind of being smaller in stature. But one thing is that with Spike is that I see from a lot of other kids is Spike is able to, the kids gifted with hip flexibility, ankle flexion, the kick, and flat out bend. And then, he's able to get under those bigger defenders. Now, mind you, too, Spike is 6'2", but he also has 35-inch arms and almost 11-inch hands. Mm-hmm. So he's able to get, he put the mitts on you regardless of your size, and can put a stop to that. So like I said, from his sophomore year on, I'm like, okay, this guy, he's a dude. And I'm like, his confidence grew from there. He also won the Under Armour Offensive Line MVP, and that was in 2023 Atlanta. And then in Nashville in 2024, he wins O-line MVP again. Now, mind you, you would think somebody who would win at 2 different locations, Under Armour, that they may get an Under Armour All-American game invite.
Right.
No, which is more disappointing to me on how some of these politics and
but
things.
And I was just about to say, how it goes sometimes. It's like you said, you're a little too short, you're a little too this, you're a little too that. But I'm a big proponent. Turn on the film. On the film. You can have all of the height, you can have all of the size, you can have all of the this and that. But at the end of the day, when I put you in pads and I put you across from somebody else, and I say, hey, go get to that quarterback or beat this reach block or go ahead, if you can't do it, you can't do it. And so, I'll tell you what, he may be too small for other programs. He's just right for the pack. How about that? Okay.
Now, remember, too, you can make an argument, some of the better centers that's ever played for NC State have been like 6'2". Grant Gibson was only 6'1".
Yeah.
But you know what? But some kids, people are not some kids, but somebody's always kind of talked about his size. One thing that I've done was I looked at one time when he was when his confidence was a little wavered because some say he was too short or whatnot, and I told him about some current NFL players that are in NFL right now that are like his height. Talk about David Andrews that plays for New England Patriots. He's been a starter for like 8 or 9 years for New England. Big Shaq Mason that was also drafted by New England, but now he plays for the Houston Texans. He plays right guard. He's 6'1", played at Georgia Tech. Now, mind you, he's 6'1", 330. He's also made $90 million in the NFL. Yeah. I'm a real big fan of Tyler Landenbaum, who is the center for the Baltimore Ravens, 6'2", 310 pounds, probably one of the top 3 centers in the game. Christian Haynes, who's the right guard for the Seattle Seahawks. He currently started right now as a rookie from UConn. Olu, who coached at University of Virginia, actually went down, transferred, and went to University of Michigan, won the Remington. And I believe that Outland, 6'2", current starter also for the Seattle Seahawks. So I do my homework. But
and listen, we still talking inside baseball, but even if we talk guys who everybody knows, right? The most famous center in the world, Jason Kelce.
Yeah.
They say he's about 6'1". I've seen him in person. Okay. Hey, that's what those roster 6'1". I'm like, wait a minute now. I'm only 6'2", and I can see clear over this guy's head. Lord knows, I almost spoke with Jason Kelce between the lines.
And Jason Kelce, Jason Kelce, when the 5 years is up, well, I think he just retired this past year. Mm-hmm. But he'll be a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
That tells to me when you talk about recruiting side, obviously with the information I just gave y'all, that some of these jokers don't do their homework.
Absolutely. It's easy to go by the height, the 40 time, the this, the that. Again, especially in the trenches, to me, more than anywhere else, you got to turn on the film.
Ken, how many times have you seen some of these big guys with these so-called measurables can't play a lick?
Oh, absolutely. Let me tell you something. I used to love to go to a camp and they say somebody was an All-American and I saw 6'7", 6'8", 330, 340. I'm like, oh, you 330, 340 in high school. I know you can't move. I know you about one Mulberry biscuit away from having a heart attack. I know you ain't got nothing for me if I'm coming off the edge, So you're absolutely right there. And we're gonna end it right here, okay? I want to ask y'all both this question. This is what we love to ask when we get players and their parents on the show. If you had to use one word to describe what the Pack is getting in Spike, tell me what word would you use?
You want to go first?
I'd probably say tenacious.
Okay.
That.
My favorite, warrior.
I love that. Let me tell you something. Coach Ryan Nielsen, when he was there, he used to say in the trenches, we got to be war daddies. We got to be generals and masters of our craft, because this is war. This is hand-to-hand combat. This is pugilism. That's what we're doing. So I absolutely love both of those.
Huge thank you to Mr. Isaac and Miss Latrese Sowells, parents of Spike Sowells, our incoming freshman center. Thank y'all so much for joining us. It was a pleasure having y'all on. Maybe this won't be the last time. Maybe you can be regular guests on Locked on Wolfpack. But thank y'all so much for joining us. Hope you had as much fun as we did.
All right. Thanks, Grayson. Thanks, Kitten.
Go Pack.
Go Pack.
Go Pack.
Go Pack.
That will do it for us here on Friday. Not even going to mention the atrocity of a basketball game that took place on Wednesday evening. If you're looking for my synopsis, it stunk, and the team's not very good right now. There you have it, folks. That'll do it for us here on Friday. Be sure to hit that like button. Drop your comments in the comment box. If you have any comments for the Sowells family, be sure to drop those in there as well. Mash that subscribe button. We'll see you right back here. We do play basketball on Saturday, possibly post-game. I'll let you all know, but if not, we'll see you all on Monday. Until then, go Pack.